100 years ago, on the 15th of June 1920, history was made in Chelmsford. It happened at the Marconi factory in New Street, when the first British live entertainment radio broadcast took place. Dame Nellie Melba, the most famous opera singer in the world, was brought to the county town to perform by Lord Northcliffe, the owner of the Daily Mail. The Australian diva travelled to Essex by train looking formidable in a wide-brimmed hat and a chic dark dress. She was booked for a short recital that included the operatic aria Addio from Act 3 of Puccini's La Bohème.
She was picked up from Chelmsford Station in a white Rolls Royce. She was driven around town. The Daily Mail organised crowds to greet and welcome her. She arrived in the Marconi New Street Works and Arthur Burrows looked up and showed her the enormous masts. He said, "Madam Melba, from the top of those masts your voice will be heard across the world." Her reply is now radio folklore. "Young man, if you think I'm climbing up there, you have another thing coming. I am Melba and I'm going home." They convinced her to stay. They gave her special dinner, which was partly cooked chicken, unleavened white bread and pink champagne, and she stepped to the microphone. She was used to the grandest concert halls in Europe. Now she was in a deserted packing shed next to the main high broadcast transmitter hall. She had no real idea what was going to happen. She looked at the microphone, which was actually a telephone handset with a cigar box cone broken and joined to it. Arthur Burrows stepped to the microphone and said, "Hello CQ, this is station MZX calling from Chelmsford, and Madam Melba will now sing."
She started her performance with a popular song called Home Sweet Home, followed by a piece in French called Nymphe et Sylvain. She then began the Puccini. Although no recording from that night exists, this is Dame Nellie singing Puccini's Addio, which she performed many times throughout her career. The experimental broadcast was all going to plan until halfway through the Puccini, when the transmitter valves failed. The broadcast stopped, and Chelmsford went off air.
They could control the temperature of the filaments in the valves, but quite often the valve would melt, and so they would have to replace the valve. But one of the sort of things that they would keep an eye on are the colour and the brightness of the valve, and also the smell, because the smell usually gives away the fact that something is overloaded. And that was quite a good clue.
Bill Ditcham changed the valve, and Dame Nellie was unaware of the problem. To ensure the audience weren't disappointed, Henry Round told Dame Melba that the world was calling for more. She sang 4 more songs, ending on a rendition of God Save the King, and the broadcast was seen as a great success. Melba was followed by other famous singers. Contralto Dame Clara Butt and tenor Lauritz Melchior both had successful broadcasts from Chelmsford, but the experiments weren't popular with everyone. The post office were concerned about the strength of the broadcast signal.
This enormous signal, by now 15,000 watts, smashed across the world. But it was also doing one other thing. When Chelmsford was on air with their musical soirees, no other radio station in Europe could actually function. They simply drowned everything out. It was not the best of starts because already the embryonic air traffic control system was started. People were getting on civilian airliners and flying across Europe. It wasn't great if when they needed urgent air traffic information, all they could hear was Chelmsford performing.
Chelmsford's licence was revoked, and the broadcast stopped in November 1920. For nearly 2 years, the amateur radio community campaigned to get regular broadcasts reinstated in Britain. At last, the government and post office relented and granted Marconi another experimental licence in 1922. The weekly broadcasts from Writtle that followed paved the way for the founding of the BBC and the start of in-home entertainment.